Good morning, a very hearty welcome to Nuuspod, and my guest this morning in the studio is Mr. Mzwanele Manyi. He is the spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation, and the topic that we are discussing today is the medical parole that Mr. Zuma received. The news was made known yesterday, and to tell us a little bit more about their reaction from the foundation side, I've got Mr. Manyi in the studio. Good morning, Mzwanele.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to your viewership.
So let's start off with your reaction about the medical parole that Mr. Zuma received.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think this medical parole has got a context. And the context is we're sitting here with a man that has been failed by the justice system of South Africa. We're sitting here with a 79-year-old man going for his 80th birthday that has been incarcerated without a trial. We have been remanded apartheid days. We're sitting here with a man who in the whole world is the only person that was never granted the opportunity to contest the verdict. The only person in the world that never had the opportunity to even plead for mitigation of sentence. So indeed, we're sitting here with a product of extreme proportions of unjustness. So when the news came of the medical parole, those news came as some kind of a relief. We know that there's all kinds of fine prints in that medical parole, but we nonetheless celebrate the moment because it means that this nearly 80-year-old man will now be reunited with his family and is going to be able to play with his grandchildren. So indeed, we welcome the medical parole.
Some South Africans will differ from you, saying that Mr. Zuma is guilty of a crime, and the crime is that he did not do his duty at the Zondo-kommissie, and that he was rightly imprisoned for that. And the other fact that they will put on your table is to say that Mr. Zuma has to answer about state capture. What is your reaction on that?
Look, I think we note what those people say, but I think whoever says this must understand a couple of things. One is that President Zuma had been to the State Capture Commission more than once actually. And the only reason there was this fallout was purely because during that his attendance at the commission, then came the issue of, he picked up that Deputy Chief Justice Zondo was not being neutral in his approach. And then what President Zuma did they asked him to recuse himself, and the man refused, and he took the matter to the High Court to have that matter dealt with. So that's really was the issue. The only thing that President Zuma ever wanted was just a neutral chairperson, as it was. So that's really the issue here. And indeed, even in the Constitutional Court, we noted with disgust actually that the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land, first and foremost, allowed itself to be used as a court of first instance. And by so doing, there was a ripple effect of what that means for President Zuma, because then it denies him appeal chances and all of that. And in fact, the Constitutional Court is on record saying that this is an extraordinary case, and therefore normal procedures will not apply. So we sit here as a foundation and say that some arbitrariness was applied to President Zuma. There was no consistency of processes and procedures. He was dealt with a lot of emotion, anger, and some vengeance of sorts. So indeed, we don't accept that what happened was justice. What has happened was just an expression of anger and emotion and all that. In fact, the Constitutional Court is on record placing the respect of the concord higher than the version that you are talking about, that is President Zuma needed to table at the State Capture Commission, because they said him being in prison actually counts better than him tabling the version at the State Capture Commission. So indeed, if you want anybody to respond to that, the Constitutional Court actually must respond to this. Why is it that the Constitutional Court has denied South Africans the version of President Zuma? President Zuma had already demonstrated his willingness to go to the State Capture Commission. He was there twice, and all he ever wanted is just a neutral chairperson. And if anybody was as interested as the people that we are saying they are interested to hear him answer to state capture, everything should have been done to make sure that if he says the problem is this chairperson, it was a simple thing. Just put the chairperson on the side just for a day or two. He didn't even have to leave the room. He just had just not to chair the meeting. Why was that complicated? So indeed, I don't think if the authorities out there are interested in the version. I mean, how do you take the whole State Capture Commission was set around President Zuma. So he is the star witness that should have been there to give evidence to what happened. Then you have a court system that removes him from the scene. I want to know what that report would look like. So it means now the stage has been created such that whoever says anything goes unchallenged, and therefore the outcome of that process can never be credible in our view.
It is being said that Arthur Fraser, the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, is helping Mr. Zuma, and that is why he received a medical parole. Your reaction on that?
I think what we must understand and accept is that there is a hierarchy of things in government, or in fact everywhere in life. The decision to do the medical parole is also segmented. We've been reliably informed that all decisions up to 24 months are the competence of a commissioner of correctional services, whoever that may be. So if the issue was a commissioner who acted beyond his mandate, we can deal with that. But if it's a commissioner that acted within his mandate, to now bring in things about he knows President Zuma and all of that, we think these are just skirmishes that must be dismissed with the contempt they deserve, because the man is on the job, is doing what the textbook says he must do, given the position that he occupies. So to try and make this personal, he is very silly, if not stupid.
How sick is Mr. Zuma?
He is coping with the situation. Obviously, he's a man that has been going through all kinds of procedures. He's a man that has been subjected to a big psychological and depressive psychological pressure. Imagine that you being a freedom fighter, and you are the first one to be denied the rights that you've already struggled for in Robben Island, in exile and everywhere. And when you are here now to enjoy those rights, you fall victim of the same apartheid kind of tendencies that you fought all your life for. So this must mean that what you fought for was for nothing. So that alone is actually destroying his capability to even heal properly. This is why we support the medical parole, because at least psychologically it will alleviate a lot of unnecessary stress.
Wouldn't it be better to open up about Mr. Zuma's condition, because everyone is now at the moment speculating, and rightly so or not rightly so. Everyone is just guessing what is happening. Why the secrecy around what is wrong with him?
President Zuma has got a posture around that kind of question. His posture on the matter is that, why is it that when it's him, then all of a sudden there is a whole level of unbelievability by those that are talking to him? He then maps up the pattern of events. He then says that, this thing started at Pietermaritzburg High Court at the behest of a Constitutional Court judge, Judge Pillay. who was presiding over a case, his case, this arms deal case, as it were. Now, in that process, the lawyers tabled a sick note to the judge to say President Zuma is not well, here's a sick note. The judge did not believe this sick note. They actually thought it's some kind of a makeshift fraudulent something, to such an extent that he actually issued a warrant of arrest for the next appearance if for some reason he fails to appear. That just shows a level of mistrust. That was not the end. Then the next thing was at the State Capture Commission. At the State Capture Commission, when the lawyers were also making the same appeal to say President Zuma is not well, DCJ Zondo himself said he will go and have a discussion with the doctors himself and try to understand what exactly is happening. That is again a level of mistrust. Now in this Pietermaritzburg High Court, we have a situation there again where an infrastructure of mistrust is created, where the judgment is very clear that after the medical report is given, the NPA must have a right to also do their own examination and all of that. So President Zuma says, but what is this? Why am I not trusted when I say things? Now, in this country, we've had a whole range of people that say things. I don't know whether it's because they are white, that they are believed. When WS got a medical parole, all these people that are talking never said anything. Everybody believed that WS qualifies for medical parole. The noises that we have today were never there when WS was getting his medical parole. When Agrizi said he is sick with whatever sickness he had, nobody said, let's get a second opinion and listen to a second opinion on Agrizi. But President Zuma, nobody wants to believe him. So he's got a standard posture on this to say, why is it that people think I'm this serious liar and all of that? Lastly, President Zuma's got a problem with the fact that we talk about equality before the law. We talk about everybody must be treated equally, but he's not treated equally. His rights are waived left, right, and center. Everybody in this country knows issues about doctor-patient confidentiality, except when it's President Zuma. No one goes around putting their sicknesses on first pages of newspapers that I've got this, I'm about to die, and all of that. Nobody does that. And the medical space is clear on the matter of it's almost like your relationship with your bank. It's a private, it's a bilateral relationship. Now, why is it that when President Zuma is concerned, that this bilateral relationship is never understood? People take it for granted. No, you are Zuma, just open up. Otherwise, we don't believe you. So we have a problem with that. And our posture is that if you don't believe President Zuma, then it's your problem. We are not about to allow anyone to invade his privacy. We are not going to allow anyone to invade his medical situation and make it public. That is not going to happen.
The other thing that is being said is that Mr. Zuma's medical parole was arranged to keep peace in KwaZulu-Natal and to keep some level of peace between the factional parties within the ANC. What is your reaction to that?
Look, well, this is a problem when people make all these kinds of statements and not bring evidence to corroborate. I don't know, I will not able to respond or accept or deny that kind of a thing, because I really don't have evidence to do this, because what that would mean, it would purport political interference, as it were, in this process. So if anyone is arguing that there's been political interference, maybe those people must come forth and give evidence and make us believe what they're saying. There's all kinds of theories that one can build around this very same issue, quite a few theories. So that's just one of them. I'm sure somebody else will come with another. So I think for us, we note what is happening, but the only thing that we're saying is that whatever the medical doctors are saying is correct.
Okay. Mr. Manyi, in South Africa, the reality is that we are threatened by something that is called state capture and high levels of corruption. What is President? Now I say President, like, because you said that. What is former President Zuma's viewpoint on state capture and the levels of corruption in the country?
His Excellency President Zuma is very clear on this matter, and his position is that, firstly, if you say the state capture, what is state? And his view is that when you say state, then you must then imply that there's judiciary, there's parliament, and there's executive. Now he says that if you say the state capture, then you must accept that the judiciary is captured, then you must accept that the parliament is captured, then you must accept that the entire executive is captured. Until you say that, you can't talk about state capture. So that's really his posture. And therefore, following that, therefore, it would mean that if you want to investigate state capture, then everybody, I mean, the fact that the report is complete, talking about state capture, but not even one judge was brought in there to respond to this matter and all of that, it can only mean that this is some kind of a narrative that is not well thought through, as it were, because indeed, if you're going to say state capture, all those people must be there. And I mean, given the 3 years we've had, there's been enough time to deal with, to get all the chairpersons of these portfolio committees in parliament, as an example, to line them up there and to make them respond. Should have got the entire cabinet that he chaired at the time to come and respond to the issues, and then you have a sense of state capture. But putting that aside, I hold a view that there has never been a time in South Africa when there was no state capture. State capture has always been there. The only difference is the different players at different times. Anybody that believes there's no state capture in the true sense of the word is probably not wanting to accept certain things. But the bottom line is that there is indeed, there has been state capture since 1994, even before, but there's never been a time when the state was just freely operating. It's just that when people don't like other operators that come in, then they zoom in on them and they forget the others. For instance, I hold a view. I know this is President Zuma's interview, but I hold a view that things like cost plus mines that are milking Eskom, that to me is a substantive state capture, where you have Eskom paying for the development of those mines. And after paying for the development of those mines, after investing a lot of money, sinking shafts and all of that, they still pay for the product at prices determined by these mines. So if that is not state capture, I don't know what is. In this country, even the constitution, in my view, is captured. We're sitting here with a constitution that is modeled on Magna Carta, a British document. So we're sitting here, we're saying we're an African state, but our whole constitution is framed on European principles. If that is not capture, I don't know what is capture. If you look at even the laws, especially the economic laws of this country, they have all kinds of deviations and exclusions when it comes to international participants. What that means is that all those that were our former colonizers have gotten access to our economic policies, and we've made it legal for that to be. So for me, that is the real capture that nobody wants to discuss, as it were.
I don't know if you can give the answer, but I want to put the question to you. To what will former President Zuma ascribe the levels of corruption, the non-functioning of certain departments, state departments, municipalities, etc., due to money that disappeared? What will his answer be, if you can give the answer?
Yeah, President Zuma is the first president in this country to establish a department called Monitoring and Evaluation. That department was meant to make sure that all the things that you're talking about are monitored, evaluated, and reported on. So I think he is not naive. President Zuma knows that there are these things that are going wrong, and he put out the infrastructure there to make sure that those things are monitored and reported on. And as you can see, that that department is there and it's reporting, but I don't know as we sit here and now what is the quality of those reports now and all of that. But the fact that he is the first president to have the presence of the mind to establish that department, it shows that we've got somebody that respects governance, somebody that respects monitoring. So indeed, you can't blame him for this.
Let's go to, if I may, and you are more than welcome to tell me when to stop a question or not to answer. Let's go to Mr. Zuma's relationship within the ANC, because according to news reports, this is an important aspect. A lot is being said about the factions within the ANC, and Mr. Zuma is always put opposite Mr. Ramaphosa, and they talk about the RET factions and the Ramaphosa camp. What is the situation in your viewpoint from, may I say, the Zuma camp, for lack of a better word, telling me what do you experience in regard of this?
President Zuma is an ANC man through and through. His blood is black, green, and gold. He is a very committed and disciplined member of the African National Congress. The issues around factions and all of that, it's important for you to understand them in this context. I mean, if you look at President Zuma's rise to the ANC leadership as in presidency, if you look at in Polokwane, President Zuma pulled 60% of the votes in Polokwane. So that is a landslide victory that he had in Polokwane. So anything else that was not following President Zuma at that time, that thing else is the one that is a faction, not what President Zuma was leading. President Zuma was a legitimate president of the ANC. When the ANC went to have his conference in Mangaung, President Zuma pulled 75% of the support in Mangaung. The next competitor was at 25%, which just shows the support that President Zuma had in the ANC. So President Zuma was a leader of the ANC. There were factions that were trying to destabilize President Zuma, and those are the ones that are factions, not President Zuma. President Zuma doesn't have a faction. President Zuma was a leader, duly elected by the ANC, and you had a duty to lead the ANC. So you can't call a person that has been elected by conference to say he's a factionalist. How factional? Because he's got the mandate of the delegates. 75% that was at the last count. So he was a true leader of the ANC with a serious, overwhelming support, undoubted support, as it were. So President Zuma is not a factionalist at all.
Mr. Zuma has said previously, I can't remember how many times, but I read it about 2 or 3 times, and now I'm saying reading. I wasn't there myself, but the report said that Mr. Zuma warned previously that if some ANC members want to bring him to fall, he will take them with him. What would he have meant by that?
Yeah, no, I've never heard him say that. So maybe this is the one question that maybe I wouldn't know how to answer. But all I know is that over the years, President Zuma has done a hell of a lot to defend the integrity of the ANC, to defend his movement. And there are a lot of things already that he could have said or done that would have achieved what you're talking about. But President Zuma has been very disciplined. He has always put the interest of the ANC above his own interest and all of that. He's a really a serious disciplined cadre of the movement. So the comments that you're talking about, I've never heard him saying anything about that. I'm not aware of.
And then just a little bit more about the factionalism, talking about factionalism within the ANC and the different sides to it. Mr. Ace Magashule, who is being said is part of the Zuma camp, the RET faction, is at trial at the moment in the High Court. I know that Mr. Magashule and Mr. Zuma have a good relationship. What is Mr. Zuma's viewpoint on the situation with Mr. Magashule at the moment?
Look, let's just clarify something here, because you're mentioning President Zuma and RET faction and all of that in the same sentence. Let's be very clear. There's no such a thing as a faction of RET in the ANC. The RET was a resolution of the ANC. So committed ANC members that are driving RET, those people are driving ANC policies. I mean, this is the same thing as I was saying before, that you can't, when people are being disciplined and driving conference resolution of the African National Congress, and then you call them a faction. In fact, if anything is a faction, is anyone that is not subjecting himself to the conference resolutions. ANC believes in what they called democratic centralism. In other words, you might have differed as building up to the conference, but once the conference speaks, you must adopt the position of the conference and articulate it as if it's your own position. So those that are not articulating the RET position are actually at odds with the ANC position. That is a conference position of the ANC. So Ace Magashule, as the Secretary General of the ANC, his duty and responsibility is to communicate conference resolutions, is to communicate ANC resolutions. So indeed, if Ace Magashule was articulating what is derogatorily referred to as RET faction, he was actually articulating the conference positions, and there should be nothing wrong with that. And anybody that differs with that, actually that person is undermining the conference resolutions. So President Zuma will relate to Ace Magashule to the extent that Ace Magashule is being a disciplined cadre of the movement, to the extent that Ace Magashule was driving conference resolution which President Zuma was part of.
Mzwanele, if you will just bear with me another minute or two, I want to go to KwaZulu-Natal and the violence that erupted there after Mr. Zuma's imprisonment. There were rumors that the violence was started because of that and in support of Mr. Zuma. And some people said that we must be careful. This is what will happen to South Africa when something happens to Mr. Zuma. Does Mr. Zuma support this kind of violence that happened? And is there a link between the violence and the imprisonment of Mr. Zuma, according to you?
Look, firstly, that there would have been violence and all of that surrounding President Zuma's arrest was almost like public information, that that link would be there. President Zuma himself realized this, and he did everything in his power to avoid this, because President Zuma is a peaceful man. So what did he do? I mean, his son, on the evening of his arrest, his son was at the gate saying, anyone that wants to go to my father must go through me, and all of that. So there was all the elements of Marikana were on stage that could have just been set alight, as it were. Now, President Zuma, a peaceful man, a humble man, a man that loves his people, decided that in order to avoid bloodshed, he must just quietly go to escort prison, so that there is no scuffle, as it were. Nobody dragged President Zuma kicking and screaming into some police van to take him to. He decently went to the prison, in order to avoid this violence. And then whilst he was in prison, obviously, there is what we have characterized as a foundation as a righteous anger of the people that erupted, as it were, when he went to prison. And I think it's important to also understand that also some analysts have made a point here to say, and this is not my original thoughts, analysts have made this point to say that because of the high inequality in South Africa, because of the high levels of poverty in South Africa, there's always a time bomb of the poor that might cause a kind of rampage that was caused in those weeks in July, as it were. So this was to be expected in a country with so much poverty. And in fact, even as we speak, there are some members, it's not all really very quiet. And I think what government needs to do going forward is to make sure that they deal decisively with the inequality, poverty, and unemployment. And to be seeing recently that the unemployment is actually rising, that creates instability in the country. Until South Africa is a society that is normalized, where a critical mass of people are living a decent life, South Africa will always be in a kind of risk of explosion. The foundation was asked to condemn the violence and all of that. And the foundation didn't get itself involved in this thing for a simple reason, that the foundation took the view that if the foundation was to stand up in the name of President Zuma and say people must stop this, must stop that, in the event people indeed listened to that and stopped, the foundation was of the view that that would have cemented the view that President Zuma is almost like the commander-in-chief of the forces of destruction. They listened to him, as it were. Now he said they must keep quiet, and now they're keeping quiet. So it means that they were acting under his command. So that would have that would have put President Zuma as the face of that destruction. Similarly, if President Zuma's voice was communicated to be the one that says, hey, people, please come down and all of that. And because we know that some of this violence was actually most likely orchestrated by people that had their own other agendas, which we don't know. So therefore, for him to speak was no guarantee actually that everything was going to keep quiet. And now we know that in South Africa, there is an agenda to continually discredit President Zuma. Now, if he had spoken, if his voice had come out, but with no effect on the ground, the headlines would have been Zuma has lost control. Zuma people don't listen to Zuma anymore, and all of that. So we took the view as a foundation, firstly, not to incite violence, not to encourage any violence, but not to say anything, because we're not in control of the forces. We did not lead up the forces. Our leader in the foundation, the patron, His Excellency President Zuma, to avoid the scuffle, to avoid the bloodshed, to avoid another Marikana, he had quietly went to prison to avoid all of this. So people must not, when they are running short of ideas, try and link all the mayhem to President Zuma and try to make him somewhat responsible for it. He's not. He tried everything to avoid it.
Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, thank you very much for your time with Nuuspod. I wish we could have talked longer.
Sure.
It was nice talking to you. Thank you very much for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. President Zuma sends his love to everyone, and he's looking forward, I'm sure, to getting out of the prison cells and breathe fresh air like everyone else. Thank you very much.
I thought he sent me a personal message.
Verkeersboetes behels meer as 'n klein ongerief met minimale gevolge. Jy kan 'n kriminele rekord kry of probleme teekom as jy jou rybewys of motorlisensie hernie, en die metropolisie kan jou by padblokkades lastigval om die boetes te betaal. Fines for you vir minder moeite met verkeersboetes deur hul te monitor en vinnig, wetlik en effektief af te handel, sodat jy nie die ongewenste gevolge hoef te dra nie. Ons spesialiseer in groot vlote en streef daarna om jou geld te bespaar. Kontak ons gerus op 011 867 7331 of besoek ons webtuiste by www.finds4u.co.za.
Nuuspod, onbevange, onbegrens, onbevooroordeeld.